Good morning. Welcome, 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 welcome. So happy you're listening, watching, whenever you do that, whether it's live with us now or if you watch this on my YouTube channel or wherever you found it on Spotify. Um, I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Joan Jack, and I am the creator of Brave Indigenous Conversations. And this is our second ever episode of Brave Indigenous Conversations with Deadly Kookums and Aunties. And each of us are going to introduce ourselves, but I always like to start the podcast by reading a piece of writing I found that really resonates with me. Brave space. Together, we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. I just love that. It was written by a woman who called herself Mickey Scott B. Jones. I did a tiny bit of research. She was a Black woman in the United States, and she's gone to the spirit world. So we have with us this morning three other deadly cookums and aunties. I'm both a deadly cookum and a deadly auntie, and we're gonna maybe let's just do a quick round of introduction now, and then Becky's gonna lead us off today. So how about we start with Roxanne? I can see you, and I can see you on my right.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to conversation. I am Roxanne Shuttleworth. I self-identify as a Métis non-status and originally from Ebb and Flow First Nation in Manitoba. I am a Cookum, or more accurately, my grandsons call me Grandma, I am an auntie as well. And I'm glad to be with you all today.
Miigwech, Roxanne. So Becky, I see you next.
Always unmute. I don't know how many times I've done that. Yeah, hi, I'm Becky Big Canoe from Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation in Lake Simcoe, about an hour north of Toronto. Yeah, I have three beautiful grandchildren and just love them to pieces. And I concern myself with matters of land, housing, justice for women, things of that nature. And I'm looking forward to our chat today. Miigwech, good to meet everybody.
Miigwech, Becky. Charm.
Lovely to see you all. My chosen name is Charm. I live in Vancouver, beautiful Vancouver, but I grew up in my territory, Treaty 6. I belong to the Cold Lake First Nation, but I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Edmonton. I'm a deadly auntie over here in Vancouver. Nice to be with you all. Nice to see y'all.
Miigwech, Charm. Okay, so what we're going to do is Becky's going to lead us in some thoughts this morning, sharing her points of view. And then once she feels like she said all she needs to say this morning, then we're going to go around in a circle and we'll have Charm go next, and then I'll go, and then Roxanne, just keeping with, and we're not going to cross talk or interrupt each other because, as Charm pointed out last time, our culture is to speak in turn and in order and listen when somebody else is speaking, not interrupt. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, Becky, over to you.
Miigwech, thank you, Joan. Such a pleasure. Um, well, I thought that it would be nice to keep it on the up and up in the sense that this is February. It's a really difficult month for a lot of people to get through, but right in the middle of it, we have a day dedicated to love. And in our language, we call that Sogedewin. So I thought maybe we can talk about that and the need for that love in our lives and in our families, in our communities. where we all know that there's a lot of suffering and turmoil going on. But we have to remember these very strong principles given to us by our grandparents, and that they always say, love one another, be kind to one another. Let's start there. And it also puts me in mind of the many Feb 14th observances and memorials that we attend on behalf of our, really large number of missing and murdered sisters, fellow aunties, KOOKOMs, young ones. And like, it's been almost 10 years since the missing and murdered inquiry that went across this country and affected and was touched by so many people's words, emotions, stories, sharings, and love. So I want to pay tribute to that as well in what we talk about today, because I was at a conference last couple weeks ago, and there were some amazing presentations. It was all about our connection to the land. And to me, one of the biggest issues or contributors to our high statistics of numbers of missing and murdered is our dispossession from the land. And many of the things that have, been studied to try and illustrate to Canadians or, the world what our situation is and why it's like that. Like we had the RCAP, and we had like the Royal Commission that was done in the 90s. And we've had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and various other things. But then I saw the glaring omission of the important work of that inquiry into what's happened to the women. And so I put my hand up and I said, I would really appreciate that particular study being used and referenced and upheld, because it seemed like it happened and then very little came about from it. There were many calls to action, and I reminded the attendees at the conference that those calls to action affect exactly where we live and the things we struggle with. They're not the overarching policy changes, but they're all about what we need to address to make us all more secure and safe, have a good home, be able to take care of ourselves and things of that nature. So that's where I want to extend my love today, and to all the people who've, taken a large part of their lives and dedicated them to working on that issue, working to commemorate the women, working to remind the authorities that these issues still need attention and things of that nature. So that's my outpouring of love for everyone in this circle today and everyone who watches this show and cares. So miigwech, but you take it there, Joan.
Miigwech. So we're just going to keep going around. Charm, what do you have to say about love? Love.
Well, I was thinking as Betty was talking that this is a continuation of the conversation we had last week. I mean, we're just, we're taking another step in this conversation. In terms of just the idea of the love and kindness, I've been thinking a lot lately about, kind of the big picture and this attempt to turn, all of mankind into transhumans and all this kind of stuff. But you see, the thing is that transhumans, you can't take away the creativity or the humanity of the human and be a transhuman. You just can't. And what they're trying to take away from us is our humanity, and it's our love for each other, our kindness, our compassion, our creativity. These are all the things that make us human. This is what they want to relieve us of, I guess, is that they think that AI would be better, but the reality is that what God has made, let no man whatever, do whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of a, trying to play God. You aren't God. You're never going to be God. Making transhumans isn't going to make you God. And our
Can
humanness,
I
our,
interrupt you, Charlie? Can you clarify? I just interrupt you because I don't think you're talking about, like, a friend of mine is transitioning from female to male. I don't think you're talking about
no,
transhuman like.
no,
So let's
no,
just
no.
clarify that before you go on. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so what transhumanism is now, you know that Elon Musk recently just put a chip in somebody's brain. They're trying to, it's kind of like cyborgs, they're trying to meld man and technology and make the transhumans. I call them the cyborgs, that they used to see on Star Trek. Well, that's coming true. But man is not a machine, and our ability to, like I say, love and be kind and be compassionate and be creative and all those things that make us human. If they, the transhuman will never be that. And and we also live in a society where divisiveness is one of the, in the art of war, that would be one of the strategies. Divide and conquer, right? And they've done that to us and our people forever. The divide and conquer, and the only I think that the fact that we're still here has more to do with our history and our ancestors and our ability to keep um, keep the essence of who we are as a people. And what I mean is that there's an elder that spoke on the show on, I saw her on APTN on this documentary about intergenerational trauma, and she was talking about how blood memory, and she was saying that we have to remember that although we've had many challenges, that and we carry in our DNA, we carry the trauma of our ancestors. We also carry in us, even further before the trauma, we carry the DNA of our ancestors and all the good things of our people. Um, Cultural, spiritual, whatever, it's all in our DNA. And it's the thing that they can't take away from us. They no matter what they do to us, they've never been able to take it away. And that is the core of I think our ability to love and be kind and share and do all these things that our ancestors did. We know we know well, hopefully some of us know the ancestral, what it is that we carry from our ancestors. And one of the things I like to look at, when we talk about this division, when we talk about this divide and conquer, one of the things that I like to look at, because I'm a counselor, when I'm talking with people, because I mostly, work with First Nations people, is cultural clash and how these traditions that we carry within us in our DNA, even if we don't seem to consciously have a memory, it is there. But these things that some of us, carry some of that tradition with us today, depending on where we are in Canada and how early we're colonized and all these things, we carry some of that. And it's about sharing and caring. I mean, that is, everybody has a part to play. Everybody has something to give. The elder, the children, the hunters, the fishers, the berry pickers, like everybody is contributing. And we live in this world where not only do we have divisiveness, but we also have this culture clash. There's I notice with some of the elders that I work with, especially that are in their home community, there's conflicts that happens with the younger generation because they still carry from their DNA and their history, they still carry the traditions and the knowledge that are really all founded in love for each other as community, as a family community-based society. And sometimes they run into the wall of the Western world, the Protestant ethic, every man for himself, you made your bed, you lie in it, like all this stuff that sort of divorces us from each other and from the love and connection that we have. And what you mentioned, the land, I mean, our sovereignty, as people of these lands, wherever we are, I mean, this is the thing, it's the culture clash and the divide and conquer part of that is dividing, separating us from our traditional lands and our language and our our language and our culture. I mean, our culture is embedded within the language. Our culture is in our land. Our culture is between us. It's in our DNA. Like it's there everywhere. And I think what's really important to remember, and why I love this elder, is because she really, I'm just getting little tingles in my leg as I say this. What I realize, and I know it's true, I could talk about it some other time, but is that I know that I carry my ancestors with me, and I just have to remember that. And to whatever degree I'm not conscious of it, I think that part of our challenge in this generation is to get connected to who we are historically. Like, who, what is my, okay, I have this DNA. What does that actually mean? And how do I connect with my ancestors and the beautiful legacy that really comes pre-trauma, pre-colonialism, pre-trauma, all that kind of stuff, because all of that is embedded within this love of family and community from a family and community oriented society. So that's just a couple of comments I have about that.
No, I mean, that's Charm. That's awesome. I just love this. Oh my God. And poor Roxanne has dropped off, but she's trying to get back on. No, she's trying to come back. So right now I'm getting a message that says device not connected, but she'll be back. Okay, so I'm going to go. What I do. Hang on, buckle up. What I do when people are talking is I make little notes, so that I can. So this is just going to be random in response to what's been shared so far. So with respect to love, my thing is, it came to me many years ago. I've been saying it. I posted everywhere. Love is always the answer. I hate that sometimes because I want to fight and I want to be right. It's like, what? I remember love is always the answer, And so for me, that's true. Like, love is always the answer. And usually what it means is that I have to expand my own capacity to love, because if I'm going to get off it, if I'm upset about something, I need to find the love. I need to find the love inside myself, and reframe the context that I'm experiencing within the framework of love. And quite often, Becky, the land is really the place. Like, I've spent 32 years now in Tack River Tlingit territory, my husband being a Wolf Clan member there. We're married 31 years now. And my husband is his land. And he's really guided me, like, literally on the land to learn that I am my land. Because when I got to Tlingit country in April 28, 1991, I drove down the Atlan Road. I was like what I would call a Safeway Indian, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a Safeway Indian. I was that for the first 31 years of my life. I had like people would bring moose meat to our house and I would eat it, because not everybody can hunt. We all live in different situations. Not saying any of that is bad. I'm just saying what I was. And then Brian and I fell in love. Now that's a love story. My God. And I'm even in love with my own love story. I can't even believe it's still happening. And so I remember the first time he got a moose and dragged it into we have like a bi-level you can drag into the basement. I remember the first time he dragged the moose right into the basement and came upstairs and said, I guess you're going to go down and cut it up now. And I was like, I guess so. Like, I'd never cut anything up. I'd never been around anything bloody. I didn't know anything, nothing. But what Charm was saying about, okay, Roxanne's trying to get on now with 2 devices, but it says device not connected. I don't know if she can hear me. Keep trying, Roxanne. Let's all send Roxanne good energy. You can do it, Roxanne. Come on your phone if you have to. Anyways, the genetic memory thing that Charm was just mentioning, I have that. And I got in touch with that, I said to him, you might, show me generally like what, he guided. I said, sure, I will. Just got to help me a little bit. And then I just kind of got in my body and heck, I knew you should see me cut meat. Holy hell, am I ever good? And I know it's got to be one of my ancestors because I never did that before. And one of the, life changing moments, one of the moments I'll never forget, we were downriver at the Call. We are cutting up moose down there, and Brian's oldest brother Douglas was even more the land than him. Like, didn't really talk to me. I had just arrived after 7 or 8 years. He still wasn't really talking to me. And he came and he was watching me as he walked by. Watching me as he walked by. And maybe the third or fourth time he said, "Who taught you how to cut meat?" And I thought, "Oh no, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong." And I said, "I don't know. I just figured it out. Like, I just know how." He said, "You're doing good. Good job." And he kept walking. So when you were talking about MMIW, Becky, and the dispossession of our lands and how it's impacted us as women, 100% bang on. You're absolutely bang on, because I live a life where when Brian hunts and he brings the wealth, the money, the property home, whatever, you can see the moose as wealth. When he brings it home, it's mine. And it's mine to distribute. Like, in a small community, when somebody gets a moose, when I'll just say from our lived experience, we'd get a moose. Oh, one of his cousins would wander in, another guy. "Oh, I heard you got a moose." They talk about the hunt and where they got, where he got it, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then he'd say, "Geez, I'm really wishing for some ribs," or "I'm really wishing for whatever." And then Brian would say, "Well, ask Joan, see what she gives you." And, being trained as a lawyer, I learned, I saw to watch for that. I knew to watch for that. That's property law, Indigenous property law. And as women, we are the ones that own the property in the house. That's why we're the matriarchs inside the house. And in the other worldview, bossy, bitchy, all of it's like, now I've started saying to people that I can see men particularly having that, and even other women having that reaction to me. I'm like, "Oh no, sorry. You're just impacted by the fact that I'm a matriarch." I am the matriarch inside my own home. I'm not saying I'm your matriarch or anybody else's matriarch. I am responsible for what happens in my home. And that's my place as the woman. And that also leads into governance, and our place as women in leadership. Some cultures, like, and I'm not Mohawk, and I'm not trying to speak about Mohawk, and what little I've learned about Mohawk, the women there are actually the clan mothers and government. Like, they run the shit. And some of our other cultures don't have that. They have, like, both men and women in leadership. And so there's our role as women in leadership, as Indigenous women. We need to be looking into that genetic memory of what it is we feel we can feel it. We can feel it, what it is we should be doing as women. And of course, we're going to, like Charm said, we're going to come smack, in many, many cases, the oppressed have become the oppressor, because it's sad, but, many of our people aren't on this journey of self-examination yet. They're not asking these questions. They're just doing what they do. Okay, so I'm looking for the possibility that we're whole again, that we be whole again. And the possibility I'm standing for is that every human being is seen and heard as who they say they are, not who I see they are, because that's my lens. That's how I see Becky. That's how I see Charm. And I don't see Roxanne anymore, but that's how I see you. So that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I just have to be conscious that how I see you is my point of view. And I have to listen for who you are and how you see yourself. Yeah. And that's what I'm standing for. And there was reference to language as well, and the link for love and language. I know that Becky and I come from a similar cultural background, but the language dialect, as we all know, changes in community and all of that. But I also notice things in language. I love looking at our language. I'm not fluent. I'm like kindergarten fluent. Like, don't talk about me, I'll know what you're talking about. But I to look for the law and the philosophy and the law, because philosophy comes first, law comes next. To look for the philosophy and law in our language, I have to sit and talk to several fluent speakers, and then I can distill out my understanding of the philosophy and law. But I noticed one day that Kisagian, which is how we say I love you, Kisagian, Kisagian, is so close to Kisagian, Kisagian, which I wouldn't say in that tone. I would say Kisagian, which is I'm scared of you. I love you and I'm scared of you. Sounds so close, eh? So it's really about relationship. The human experience is really about relationship. Another one, bomb dropped. Driving along with Tobasonic Bun, and we were heading down to the hell's that place in Minnesota? Oh, something lake. That's not much of a clue. Anyway, we were going to ceremony. Give me a better clue than that, Joan. Lake is not a good clue. Anyways, I was saying Kchimanitu, which is great spirit. And we were in a little car, and he was a big man. And we were close to each other, and he was taking me to ceremony. And he said, "Stop saying that." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "What should I say?" And he said, "Say, Kchimanitu, Kijemanitu." I said, "Okay, I know what Manitu is, but what's Kije?" And he said, Kije is kind spirit. He said, we believe that the connection in the universe is a kind spirit. It's not a great, Kiche is big, eh? It's not a big spirit. He said, that's what white people think. They think it's big and above them. That's the way they see the world. Us, it's Kije Manitu, he said. It's in everything. It's in everything. It's in you, the trees, everything. It's a kind spirit that's in everything. So that's what I learned that day, and it like brain exploded, like shifted my whole world. You know, having been raised and indoctrinated in a world of a punishing God. You know, that I would be punished. To know that I come from a world and the genetic memory of a kind spirit, eh? Loved it. Oh, I got too much to say. One last thing then. Roxanne's not back either. So I'm working on a piece that I'm condensing to, I want to end up doing a TED Talk. Even if I never do a TED Talk, I want to end up being able to deliver a piece of speaking in a format within 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, you know. So I'm working on that, and I'm telling you, it's taking something because there's so much to say, you know. And yeah, like I the draft I have now, the people I've read it to said, this one white lady said, I'm getting white people to help me because it's the non-Indigenous audience primarily that I want to have relationship with. And so I'm asking my white friends if they will listen. And she said to me, Joan, I think you got like 10 TED Talks in there. I think you need to. Because she said, you bring up this and like, oh, and I go with you, and then you bring up that, and I've got questions about this and that. So it takes something. So the speaking that I'm working on, I'm calling We Are All Trees. And I made a choice a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, that every time somebody suggests a book to me, I'm open and I look for the audiobook because I do a lot of driving, and then I listen to it. Some of them I really like. Some of them I'm like, okay, well, that was interesting. I got to know more about the other person, but that's not who I am. But still, I got to know what that interests them. So I was the same lady, the same non-Indigenous woman said to me, because my speech is called We Are All Trees. She said, and I say in the speech that there's scientists that have proven now that the forest actually helps each other. Like the trees help each other through the root system. And that's where the love and kindness for other trees, and it's like a real thing. And she said, oh, I know the book. And she took her a minute. She said, it's called Finding the Mother Tree. Finding the Mother Tree. And so I'm listening to it now, and what an interesting book. And inside that book, she talks about briefly, she talked so far anyway, that the Coast Salish people have teachings about, and we do too, that everything's alive, everything has spirit, and how the forest works together. And that's why you put the tobacco down, you make your offering, you get in relationship with the life you're going to take before you take it, because you're recognizing it's going to end its life in that form and come into you in this form for your life, so it's all in there. Last thing, the DNA and the mixed blood thing that Charm raised. When you raise the DNA, it's like, okay, where my mind goes is, okay, got it. I got that. I'm mixed blood. My sister recently did one of those spit in the thing and send it away or whatever. So we're 25, I'm 25%. I said, assuming we have the same father. No, which I'm pretty sure we do. I'm 25% Anishinaabe, Native American. It just says Native American. And so the rest of me is Lebanese, and there's some French and some Scotch. And so around 15, when I got to Winnipeg, I started to wake up to racism, because that's what I was experiencing. I was certainly brown enough for racist people in Winnipeg. And then knowing too that I have the Lebanese blood, I went to the Lebanese pavilion during Folklorama, and they were all like, "Oh my God, where does your grandpa come from? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I know this," like just so welcoming. And you look like, and they all saw me as themselves, And I thought, well, isn't this interesting? But because I was born and raised in Barons River in an Anishinaabe community, I just couldn't see myself belly dancing. Like, I didn't even want to try. Like, and so where I've landed is my spirit with this mixed blood chose to come out where it came out, on the land. Again, back to the land, Becky. It didn't choose to be born in Lebanon or in Scotland, or wherever. It chose to be born in Barons River, Treaty 5. That's my territory. So for me, that's what I made up. I'm making that all up, but that's how I frame it. And so when I speak to my ancestors, I call upon and invoke, the guidance of my Anishinaabe ancestors. And I've discovered that I really like Middle Eastern food, some of it. So there you go. Okay, poor Roxanne couldn't get back on. Let's just do one more round, and we'll see what happens. Okay, Becky.
So beautiful, Joan, and funny and awesome. Thanks. Amazing. Um, the last thing you said there, I don't take notes, but I'll try to refer to some of the things you said because they're so interesting. Um, yeah, I imagine we're all really mixed blood, and I know I have Anishinaabe, Algonquin, as there's a difference apparently, and my one grandmother came from Canoe, Mohawk territory, and I know my maternal grandfather was such a white man that his name was Whiteside. So, so we're all kind of mixed bags, and so like this was about 10 years ago when I was sobering up and I was reconnecting myself to the spirit like world and thinking about my obligation to be one of those people who takes care of the land. And I was doing what I could, and I was out there in space, so to speak. I was imaging myself and thinking about how can we make things better on the earth. And I suddenly felt like I was surrounded by um, millions upon millions of grandmothers here in this space where we do work. And so I called them Sky Grannies because it's all of our grandmothers. It doesn't matter where we come from. And if you want to know something or get something done, you go to your grandmothers. They have the knowledge, they have the experience, they have the love. So I started telling people like Well, if you have a problem, it's very simple. Just take it to the sky grannies, because if you're gonna find an answer, you're gonna find it there. And so I said it's very simple too. Um, they actually love it when you come to them because they love problem solving and they love showing off their skill. So go to them and tell them what your need is, what your want is. Frame it such as, Sky Grannies, I'm so happy that I have, or that I will, or that, put it in the present tense. And tell Sky Grannies, like, thank you, gracias, whatever you want to use, and just leave it with them. And then wait and watch and see what they can do for you. It's quite amazing. At one time, taught a lady this, and we produced to very exact specifications, a Janome sewing machine that she never would have been able to afford at that time, was just given to us. And she's a beautiful textile artist, so it was just the perfect thing. And it came through me, somebody saying, oh, I have to move, and I need to get rid of this, and I need to get rid of that. She'd only told me the week before this is exactly what she needed. So it was really great to work for the Sky Grannies in that capacity. So yeah, so that's where I go when times look dark or you're in need of things. Just go into the lap of the Sky Grannies, because we all have them. Everyone has them. So what do you think of that, Charm?
That's great. I used to think when I sort of started learning about things, because I grew up in the city in Edmonton, I didn't really know anything, didn't know about my family, nothing. And my dad he's Native and Irish. I always make a joke. Well, it's no surprise that that the natives and the Irish got together because they all got kicked off their land. you know, and then my mom's side, English, German, and Dutch. I used to get people walking up to me all the time talking to me in German. I'm like, what? They're like, Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Sprechen Sie Deutsch? I'm like, huh? It's kind of funny. But I was thinking about. So when I sort of started learning different things, I thought, damn, when am I ever going to get my Indian name, and when am I going to get my song and all this stuff? And I was always walking around wondering, when the hell am I going to, when is this going to happen? I just couldn't see how that was going to happen. And one day I was driving in my car and I was thinking of the Warrior song, and I was thinking of that song, and then this other song came to me. And I was starting singing that song, and I decided, I guess that must be my song. It came to me just driving in my car. And then I had a dream. And in this dream, I was in the forest, and there was a bunch of kids running around, whatever. And I was kind of like running around, and they had this like outdoor cookhouse, and there was a bunch of grannies in the cookhouse. And they were like, I remember this one granny stirring this big pot of probably moose stew or something like that. And she's like stirring this big pot. And I was down like in the bushes or something. And I looked up at these grannies and I'm like, do you want to hear my song? Do you want to hear my song? This is my dream, right? You want to hear my song? And I remember this old granny, she was stirring the pot and she just kind of went smiling at me and just nodded her head. Yes, of course we want to hear your song, right? And I opened my mouth to sing my song, and they all started singing my song. Again, I'm getting tingling in my legs. And I thought in that moment, like, when I woke up, I thought, they were blessing my song in my dream. The aunties, the grandmas, they came and they blessed my song in my dream. And I was telling that story to my uncle. And there was another whole story how that came about. But I was telling him the story, and he said that in our territory there was some medicine men or holy men or whatever that had prophesied that one day our young people were going to come back and bring back our culture. And this goes roundabout to what I was saying about it's in our blood, it's in our DNA, like our ancestry and our culture, everything is right in our DNA. And that's just like one example of that. And so I know the grannies, I know the grannies. They came to me in my dreams. And yeah, it's that's a part of our thing too. Interestingly, there was an actual some scientists that got together and did some research, and they proved, I don't know how they did it. There was an article about it. They proved that we don't die, that our spirit does not die. Our spirit lives on even after our body, is gone. Our spirit lives on. And like, imagine the wisdom of our ancestors that knew that, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of whatever years ago. They all knew that, but they didn't need no scientist to tell them that. Isn't that interesting? So anyway, I was thinking of that. And I'll share something else too, which kind of relates to, uh, sovereignty, which I think is a key, land, like connection to the land and sovereignty, I think is really key to this conversation. The other thing is that sovereignty and identification, like how we identify, how do I identify as an Indigenous woman who's like Joan, I'm 25%, if you want to use numbers, I'm 25% Native, 25% Irish, and 50% English, German, and Dutch or whatever. But identity, to me, I think the disconnecting us from the land is about trying to disconnect us from our identity, and disconnecting us from our identity, or connecting us, whatever they do with our identity. You see, the powers that be have decided that they have the power to decide who we are. So in doing that, I argued in, I don't know, my dissertation or somewhere, I argued that our power to identify ourselves is a necessary aspect of sovereignty. It's a necessary aspect of our connection to our land, our culture, our people, our language. It's a necessary thing. We have to be the ones to decide these, or to say how it is. It's not up to them to tell us you are or you aren't, or you have this card that says you are, or you have this card that says you aren't, or whatever the hell, whatever they're doing. This is a key thing, that the connection between my identity, my sovereignty, and my aunties. This is all what it's all about. This is the circle. This is the circle of our life, and this is the circle of love. So I don't know where all that came from. It just came. But something more to think about, right?
Yeah,
Identity. Huh?
for sure. Yeah. Were you done? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, just that's just
Okay.
reflections, right? And
Yeah.
storytelling, of
Okay.
course, because I love to
Yeah.
tell my
Okay.
stories.
Yeah. So, so I'll keep going here, picking up on what you were just sharing, Charm, and then we'll finish, and then we'll just see. We'll each go again, and we'll just see if there's anything else. And I think we're done. Oh, look, there's Roxanne. Look at her.
Hi, everybody.
Yay! Way to persevere, Roxanne.
You know what I had to do?
What?
I purchased a new laptop and I hadn't set it up or brought it on or anything. So I pulled it out of the packaging and here I am.
Look at you go.
So
You
that
look
also
clear now too. That's
I'm so
clear.
sorry I missed sorry
That's
about
okay.
that. I'm so
There's some.
sorry I missed the
That's okay.
conversation.
That's okay. There's feedback now from other people's mics. So I was just going to go, and then maybe you could just pick up where I leave off, because I'm sure you can engage in the conversation wherever you walked into it. Okay, so I'm going now, and then you can go next, Roxanne. So if you
Okay.
don't mind muting yourself, that'll be great. So I'm just picking up on what Charm was just saying about the power to identify ourselves, and the linkage to land and place. That's the crux of it. That's the crux of it. Because, and all of the common law in Canada is based on this. Of course, they had to separate us from our land and identity, because some people are going to think this is racist. Sorry if that's how it occurs for you, but And I know there's global, movement and all that of human beings. But Japanese people come from Japan, German people come from Germany, and Spanish people come from Spain, and we come from here. This is our land. This is the land that identifies us. And so with colonization moving around the world globally, that the process of colonization has necessarily had to disconnect us from our land, which when we're disconnected from our land, even intellectually, impacts our identity. And many of our people, the hardest thing is when I've met so many people, when they grow up and they've been disconnected generations from the source, the land source, they don't know where they're indigenous, clearly, but they don't know what land they're from. That's so hard. But that's not where I want to go with this, but I'm conscious that some of our listeners would be in that position, that they would have been adopted out, or the foster care system, or whatever colonial tool has actually done what we're talking about, has actually disconnected us from our land generationally, So, and the power to identify ourselves, that is critical, is so clear in the modern treaty negotiations. For example, as a lawyer, just as one example, in the treaty negotiations, who is a beneficiary, because it is about the land, because land is about prosperity and wealth and living bountifully anywhere in the world. So in these modern agreements, who is a beneficiary is a matter of negotiation. And of course, the Canadian state takes the position that those identified through their law and their legislation, 9124, are the registered Indians, those with status, the card, registered as a status Indian. Now Métis people are getting cards. If you've got the card, then you belong. It's all about statistics. And like, I don't know if you've ever tried to leave the hospital when you had a baby without registering them with vital statistics. I did. Oh my God. They called 3 doctors. I don't know how many nurses. I said, no, it says right here on the form, voluntary. I don't have to register my baby as with Canada right now. I can do it when I choose. And I of course I did register my daughter later, but I had to move heaven and earth because it's about the money and the benefit of belonging to land. And so that's why we're separated from our land, is because if we were not separated from our land, we would be benefiting, not just, of course, spiritually and all that stuff, but financially. We would be benefiting financially. We would not be the biggest per capita. If you look at the ratios, oh my God, I'm on a soapbox here. Sorry, guys. Like, if you look at, we have the smallest population, Indigenous people, and the largest number of kids in care. We have the smallest population, and most in jail. We have all of these disproportionate, the gap and all this stuff. Well, I'm going to swear, there's big fucking money in oppression. Big money. Big money. How are all those people that are jail guards and social workers, and not that they're bad, I'm not saying they're bad, but how are they going to feed their families if we just all fucking got connected with our land and the money that our land should be bringing us? How would Canadians then? How would that impact? Oh my God, did I ever go down a road here? Sorry about that rabbit hole. Oh, anyways, identity is definitely sourced in the land. And it's about the money. Because if you can't go hunting, like if you can't bring home a moose, then you're not eating moose. It's that simple. And so, right now, as the Indigenous people of Canada, we do not have access to the resources of our land. And that's the problem. Oh my God. Okay, Roxanne. Let's let Roxanne go. And then I saw your hand, Charm.
Hi, I feel kind of disjointed, and simply because I was gone for 20 minutes. When I left, we were talking about love, and I know we touched on the murdered and missing women, and then I think Charm mentioned, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was Becky, Elon Musk putting a chip in somebody's brain. And what came to mind with that is good or bad, right or wrong, it's been done. So we know someone else is going to pick that up and run with it somewhere in the world. Is it right or wrong or good or bad? To me, it's a step up or maybe two steps up from a pacemaker. Are pacemakers good or bad or right or wrong? And so I think it's just being aware of that and ensuring as much as we can how much of that is done. And I say as much as we can because we're sure Elon Musk is off doing stuff he can because he's got the money. And I've always said follow the money trail. You want to know what's really going on? Follow the money trail. And so, sure enough, somebody somewhere, maybe just like when they cloned the sheep a few years ago, they're cloning people. We know that. Whether they're succeeding, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know. But we know they're trying it. Somebody's trying it somewhere because they can. And so I think to me, that's the bigger thing is we need to be aware of. And so he's put a chip in someone's brain. I'm going to actually go and look that up after and find out and see where that goes. But at the same time, like when you read or follow conspiracy theories, and dystopian societies are where it's the aftermath where the whole world lost their mind and went crazy. And
Oh gosh, I don't know where Roxanne went now. She lost her mind and went crazy.
No.
She's gone. Am I gone? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes,
Becky can hear me. Okay, Roxanne's there you're unfroze now, Roxanne.
there you are.
You lost your mind and went crazy for a minute. Come back.
Hold for a minute there, and
I'm wondering now if it's my internet because I got the new laptop going and I've never had issues with I'm looking at my TV, it's still going and my TV is all internet. So I'm not sure what's going on here. If my internet had cut out, my TV would cut out. And right now I'm looking at this, it's muted,
Oh,
but I'm
well.
looking at it. So I'm going to have to figure that one out.
Yeah. You need Elon Musk's Starlink.
You know what? I'll be getting that in the next month when I move home because apparently that's the most reliable source
it's
in
pretty
my
good.
community.
Yeah. Okay. Were you done or you want it more? It's up
So
to you.
yeah, no, I mean I could have gone off down into that rabbit hole, but yeah, that's what came to me in listening to what Charm was saying. And I'm sorry I missed a lot of Becky's sharing and totally all of Joan's. And but yeah, those are just things that came to mind as I was listening and wanted to share those with people. It's like let's not all jump on it's the bad bandwagon or it's the wrong bandwagon because when we look at technology and you look at people with pacemakers, they're alive because of that technology. So, it's something we really have to look at and think about, I think.
Some will, some won't, eh? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's awesome. Becky, did you want to go. Let's do some closing comments now, because we're just coming up to our hour, and people are busy, and let's just make some closing comments, and I'll invite Becky, and then I'll invite each of you in turn.
Thank you, John. Those are really interesting subjects to delve into for sure. Not something I spent much time yet thinking about, but when you're thinking about our reconnection to the land, this is where I went with the fact that they turned this UNDRIP into law, and the UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And I put it out there kind of just so that sneakily that look at that and read that, I say to myself, what that says is that we can go back to our hunting and fishing territories, and where they are, all kinds of hunting and fishing lodges that took over and benefited from that fact that we were clear from those areas. And so, what with our housing crises and our issues we have on our concentration camps, we ought to be able to go and say to the owners and occupiers of those lodges, your time is up. Thank you very much. You may vacate now, and we may take over. And I'm cooking it up, calling it Great Lodge Plan. So if we all went on the same day, what could anybody do to stop us? You know what I'm saying? So I'll just put that out there. See what the sky guys say, maybe. Go ahead, Charm.
Awesome. Thank you, Becky. And you're having some sound issues on your end now. We're just really struggling today. Okay, Charm, what are your closing comments?
Well, another great conversation. And I'm thinking of that book, Dispossessed Life and Death in Native Canada, that book I told you about. And you see, this is the key. That's the key word, is dispossessed. When I am dispossessed from my land, when I am dispossessed from my people, when I am dispossessed from my ways of sustaining myself, when I am dispossessed of my language, when I am dispossessed of my family, my community, all these things, it's easy to become the person who is the oppressor. You go from, when you're connected, when you're possessed of your family, your tradition, your culture, your land, your all these things, this is where love lies. When you're dispossessed, look, in the US, they got this big invasion going on right now. And basically what they're doing is Biden is bringing in his own army, and this army, they don't care about the Americans. They're not Americans. They don't care. They're in there. They're all getting a cell phone, and they're all getting access to where they can actually get the weapons. There's a new army coming into the US, and that army is an army of people who have no connection to the land. They have no connection to the people, and they will do what they're told because they got a new way to live in the USA. And this is the whole colonial agenda that's still going on, dispossessing people from their lands, their people, their culture, their language, everything. And you cannot have that. That doesn't happen. Like, when that's happening, the love is gone. There is no love. So love is in the connection, the repossessing, as Becky's saying, repossessing, taking back our land, reconnecting with our families, reconnecting with our language, reconnecting with our culture, reconnecting with our way of being in the world. And Taiki Alfred actually talks about this in his first book that he ever wrote, which I kind of used to chuckle because there was a little bit of naivety there, but in reality, yes, when I connect with my ancestors and my family and everything like that, that is the land of love. That's my last words.
Beautiful. Roxanne, your last words for today. She's frozen again. Roxanne, you're frozen again. Just, oh, there she is. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm cutting in and out. My last words for today are to thank everybody for their patience as we figure out what we're doing and what I figure out what I'm doing. And I appreciate what I was able to participate in. As I said, I've missed a chunk of the show, and I'm going to go back and, of course, listen to it on a podcast once it's loaded, and then, of course, share it. So, again, I really appreciate our chats, our talks, our visits, and thank you all.
Miigwech, Roxanne. So I just love this. I just can't even tell you how full my heart is with love for all of you, for all of our people who are listening whenever they listen. Thank you for listening to us. Like I said, I'm standing for the possibility that all humans are seen and heard as who they say they are. And so this brave space, this brave conversation with Deadly Cookums and Aunties, where we can be who we are, share who we are, and we're as diverse as the forest, even though if you're walking in the bush, um, you'll see, if you see birch trees, not every birch tree is the same, even though they're birch trees, you know? And that's the same for us as Indigenous people. We are all Indigenous people, and yet we're each so beautiful in our own way as who we are. And I just feel deeply honored and I'm totally energized. I wish I liked cleaning house, because I would probably clean up now if I did. So I hope this was energizing for you too. Don't forget, subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get notifications when we're going to be going live again. See you all in a couple of weeks, and stay on. We're going to have a little private chit chat.